Erasmus floated through the vast celestial bureaucracy, clad in a rumpled white robe and a pair of comfortable slippers. He'd been assigned a caseworker, a dazzling creature with iridescent wings who introduced herself as Eudora, Muse of Mnemosyne, memory. It turned out Erasmus' memories were missing. Apparently, a celestial filing error had misplaced his entire life's worth of recollections. He was met with a mix of pity, amusement, and condescension from the other inhabitants of the heavenly realm. Some offered helpful advice, while others merely shook their heads in tooted, as if to say, "Poor thing, he'll never remember again." But Eudora was different. She treated Erasmus with a warmth and respect that he hadn't experienced since his days as a mortal accountant on Earth. Their quest for Erasmus' memories began with a trip to the filing department, a labyrinthine complex guarded by bored cherubs perched on floating lotus flowers. Here, they encountered Bartholomew, Scratchy, Scratchworthy, a disgruntled imp tasked with retrieving missing memories. Scratchy, resembling a grumpy gargoyle with a fondness for spicy chili peppers, wasn't exactly thrilled about babysitting a bewildered accountant. The trio set off, navigating through towering piles of parchment and scrolls, each cherub directing them to another potential lead. "Over there, dear," cooed one cherub, pointing to a stack labeled Human Interest Stories. "Or perhaps you'll find them in the Heartwarming Moments archive," offered another, gesturing to a pile marked as such. As they searched, Erasmus grew increasingly frustrated, his bewilderment mirrored in Eudora's concerned expression. "Don't fret, dear Erasmus," she said, patting his hand reassuringly. "We'll find your memories yet. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself? It might help jog your own memory." And so, as they continued their quest, Erasmus began to share stories of his childhood love for astronomy, his first heartbreak, and the quiet satisfaction of helping a struggling client. It was then that he realized there was more to him than just numbers and ledgers. Scratchy, who had been grumbling to himself about the inefficiency of celestial filing systems, perked up at Erasmus' tale of woe. "Astronomy, you say?" he muttered under his breath. "Well, if it's stars and planets you're after, you might try the Celestial Observatory. They've got records of all the constellations and such." Eudora nodded thoughtfully, leading them towards a set of ornate double doors guarded by a pair of regal-looking angels. As they approached the observatory, Erasmus felt a glimmer of hope. He couldn't help but wonder if the stars held the key to reclaiming his memories. The observatory was a breathtaking sight, with towering telescopes pointing towards the heavens and constellation maps adorning the walls. The angels greeted them warmly, directing them to the records room where they could search for any mention of Erasmus' past interests. In the records room, rows upon rows of scrolls and books were stacked floor to ceiling. Erasmus felt a wave of nostalgia wash over him as he ran his fingers over the worn leather bindings. "This is where I used to spend my nights," he said, looking around with a smile. "I used to dream of studying the stars." Eudora smiled back at him, her wings fluttering gently. "Then let's find those stars, Erasmus," she said, "and bring them home." With renewed determination, they began searching through the archives. Hours passed as they pored over ancient texts and studied star charts. Occasionally, Scratchy would grumble about the dust getting into his fur, but Erasmus paid him no mind. He was too focused on the task at hand. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they found it, a faded parchment tucked away in a forgotten corner of the room. The title read, "The Adventures of Erasmus the Astronome, a Star-Crossed Life." Erasmus' heart leapt into his throat as he recognized the handwriting on the page. It was his own. With trembling fingers, he opened the book and began to read about his life, the nights spent gazing at the stars, the friends he'd made along the way, and the dreams he'd once held dear. As he read, Erasmus felt a wave of recognition wash over him. His memories began to flood back, like a long-forgotten river returning to its rightful course. He looked up at Eudora and Scratchy, tears streaming down his face, and smiled. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely audible over the beating of his heart. "Thank you for helping me find my way home." Eudora smiled back, her eyes twinkling with unshed tears of her own. "It was our pleasure, Erasmus," she said, reaching out to pat his shoulder. "It's what friends do for each other." Scratchy cleared his throat, looking a bit choked up himself. "Well, I'm glad we could help," he muttered. "Now, if you're quite finished with that book, we should really get back to the main library before someone notices we're gone." They gathered their things and started to make their way out of the observatory. As they left, Erasmus took one last look at the stars, feeling a new sense of purpose and belonging. He knew that his life would never be the same again, but he also knew that he was finally on the right path. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in a symphony of fiery hues. "Well," said Scratchy, breaking the silence, "I suppose this means you won't be needing my help anymore." Erasmus turned to face him, a look of gratitude etched on his face. "Oh, Scratchy," he said, reaching out to shake the little demon's hand. "You have no idea how much I'll always need you." Eudora chuckled softly. "And what about me, Erasmus?" she asked. "Will you forget about your fairy godmother once you've found your way back to yourself?" He looked at her, his eyes filled with warmth and gratitude. "Never, Eudora," he said. "You are my friend, and I will always be grateful for everything you've done for me." As they walked back towards the main library, arm in arm, Erasmus felt a new sense of peace wash over him. He knew that his journey was far from over, but he also knew that he had the strength and the support to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And, as the stars twinkled above them, he couldn't help but feel that they were guiding him every step of the way. Eudora and Scratchy chatted animatedly about their adventures together, their laughter filling the air. Erasmus listened to their stories, feeling a part of their little group, their family. He knew that he would never forget the night he'd found them, or the lessons they had taught him about friendship, loyalty, and perseverance. They reached the main library, and as they parted ways, Eudora and Scratchy turned to face him. "You know where to find us," Eudora said with a wink. "We'll always be here for you." "Yes," Scratchy added, scratching his ear uncomfortably. "Just don't expect me to help you with your homework or anything like that. I'm not as smart as I look." They both laughed, and Erasmus joined in, feeling a warmth in his chest that he hadn't experienced in a long time. As he walked away, he couldn't help but wonder what adventures lay ahead for them all. He knew that their paths would diverge eventually, but he also knew that they would always have a special place in each other's hearts. And, as long as he had their love and support, Erasmus knew that he could conquer any challenge that came his way. The stars seemed to shine brighter than ever before, and Erasmus felt a renewed sense of purpose and belonging. He was no longer alone in the world, and for that, he would always be grateful. With a newfound sense of self and a renewed sense of direction, he walked into the library, ready to face whatever the future held. The library, as always, was a bustling hive of activity. Scholars and students moved between the towering bookshelves, their voices a symphony of knowledge and discovery. Erasmus took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the place course through his veins. He knew that he belonged here, among the books and the seekers of truth. As he made his way to his favorite reading nook, he spotted a familiar face, a young woman with auburn hair and piercing green eyes. Her name was Amelia, and they had shared many late-night conversations about the stars and the mysteries of the universe. Seeing her brought a smile to his face, and he quickened his pace, eager to catch up with her. "Amelia!" he called out, jogging over to her. "It's been too long." She turned around, a surprised look on her face. "Erasmus! I didn't recognize you without your glasses." They laughed, and it felt like no time had passed at all. "It's good to see you," she continued. "I heard you'd been having some trouble. I'm glad you're back." He nodded, his voice catching in his throat. "Thank you, Amelia. I've missed you too." They stood there for a moment, lost in each other's eyes, and Erasmus knew that, with her by his side, they could explore the universe together. As they walked away, arm in arm, he felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over him. The future was uncertain, but he was no longer alone. He had his friends, his family, and the stars to guide him through whatever lay ahead. As they wandered through the library, Amelia pointed out a new exhibition on the history of time travel. They spent hours discussing the various theories and possibilities, debating the ethical implications of altering the past and the infinite branching universes that could result from such tampering. Erasmus felt invigorated by their conversation, his mind racing with new ideas and possibilities. Late into the night, they found a quiet corner to themselves, sitting beneath a statue of the great philosopher Aristotle. Amelia reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn journal, handing it to Erasmus. "I've been keeping a log of the constellations," she explained, "and I've noticed something strange. When I connect the dots in a certain way, they form a pattern that resembles a map of sorts." Erasmus took the journal, his curiosity piqued. As he flipped through the pages, studying the intricate patterns, he realized that Amelia was right. There was a hidden message, a secret map to something. He wasn't quite sure what yet. The two of them spent the rest of the night poring over the journal, discussing their theories and plans. They decided that they would need help, and soon set out to recruit others who might share their interest in the stars and their secrets. As they made their way back to their dormitory, the stars twinkling above them like 1,000 tiny eyes, they knew that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. The universe was calling to them, and they were ready to answer. The days that followed were filled with frantic activity as they reached out to astronomers, scientists, and other seekers of knowledge from around the world. The response was overwhelming, and soon they had assembled a diverse group of individuals who all shared their passion for the stars and their mysteries. They gathered in secret, meeting in darkened rooms and hidden laboratories, poring over maps and star charts, trying to decipher the message hidden within the constellations. As they delved deeper into their research, they began to uncover hints of a long-lost civilization, one that had harnessed the power of time and space itself. This civilization, they theorized, had left behind a trail of clues, hidden within the constellations for future generations to find. They knew that if they could piece together these clues, they might be able to unlock the secrets of time travel and change the course of history forever. The journey would not be easy, and they knew that there were forces at work that would do anything to stop them. But they were undeterred, driven by a sense of destiny and a burning curiosity that refused to be denied. They were, quite simply, in love with the idea of the impossible becoming possible. And so, they set out on a quest to follow the stars and uncover the truth. Over the course of the next few years, they traveled the world, following the clues hidden within the constellations. They explored ancient ruins, deciphered long-forgotten languages, and delved into the deepest mysteries of science and philosophy. They faced countless dangers, both physical and intellectual, but their bond grew stronger with each challenge they overcame. Finally, after countless twists and turns, they found themselves standing before the final puzzle. The entrance to the lost city of Atlantis, hidden for thousands of years beneath the waves. Using the knowledge they had gained and the technology they had developed, they were able to construct a submersible vessel and journey to the fabled city. As they approached their destination, the stars seemed to align, and they knew that they were on the right path. As they descended into the depths, they marveled at the sight of the ancient city, its buildings and statues glowing with an ethereal light. They docked their vessel and made their way through the city streets, their hearts racing with anticipation. They knew that within Atlantis lay the key to their ultimate goal, the power to travel through time and change the course of history. They spent weeks exploring the city, uncovering its secrets, and piecing together the fragments of its lost knowledge. And then, at last, they found it, the heart of the city, the machine that had once given Atlantis its power. With trembling hands, they activated the device, and a brilliant light filled the chamber. As they watched in awe, the world around them seemed to shift and warp, and they knew that they had done it. They had harnessed the power of time travel. The future stretched out before them, filled with endless possibility. They could go back and prevent wars, end suffering, and reshape the world into a utopia. But as they stood there, hand in hand, staring at the glowing machine, they realized that they were no longer the same people who had begun this journey. They had changed, grown, become something more. They had found a new purpose, not in changing the past, but in using their knowledge to build a better future. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider subscribing to stay updated with our latest stories, give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.